Speaker, I rise today to speak on behalf of the residents of Lade, Vale and Gunning on a subject I have repeatedly raised in this House, the reality of yet another solar factory proposal. While I and my constituents understand the implications of renewable energy projects, it appears the selection of locations for these industrialised operations are largely ignored and dismissed by planning officials. I have been contacted over 50 times by families in the community, including one whose family home sits a mere 2 kilometres from the boundary of the proposed development, who either have been ignored by the New South Wales planning system, the proponents of this industrial development, or are just hearing of it for the first time. These are people who, for the rest of our lives, will be faced with permanent impacts of this industrial project, transforming the rural landscape that was never anticipated. I reiterate to the House, the Goulburn region is not a part of the state's renewable energy zones. Like many others in our area, these residents have been given mixed messages from the moment the project began, from the project proponents, which have changed along the way, to today, the Recurrent Energy, who have claimed through engagement in their submissions. Yet we have neighbours who have not even been consulted, let alone contacted. I even have neighbours who claim that their property has been included in the development despite not agreeing to any transfer of land. It's astounding, Mr. Speaker. Although the Gunning Solar Factory has not yet been approved, the community is preparing for what increasingly looks like an inevitable outcome. We look at Wallaroo, which had enough objections to be independently assessed, and the independent assessment said those objections mean little. Residents' objections to date have been met with vague and unsatisfactory responses from the project's developer, leaving the community with more questions than answers. Despite their repeated attempts to engage with the New South Wales Department of Planning, Industry and Environment, I've heard of constituents waiting months for a reply. One of the most concerning issues with this specific project is the lack of transparency around the community benefit sharing scheme. The developer claims that an agreement has been reached with the Upper Lachlan Council, yet the council itself has stated they were still in negotiations. This lack of communication and coordination is troubling, especially when it involves something as critical as ensuring the community receives its fair share of benefits. We have been told that $4.5 million will be distributed over the life of the project, with $3.25 million going towards a community benefits fund and $1.25 million towards neighbourhood benefit payments. However, I must stress that this is a long-term commitment. We need to ensure that these funds are actually delivered and managed in a way that benefits all residents, particularly those most affected by this development. It needs to be clearly stated. The Gunning Solar Factory is a project classified as state significant, which means that final approval rests with the government and not local council. Wallaroo has seen that even with a residential and council objection, this government will push on. Yet the responsibility to the advocate for our community lies with the residents. I want to ensure the voices of Lade, Vale and Gunning that they are being heard, and that the concerns they have raised about property devaluation, visual impact and long-term community welfare are taken seriously. To that end, they have conducted a short but well-executed campaign organising community meetings and emails to both myself and the Minister for Planning. I congratulate the communities on coming together as one on this issue. It is unfortunate that with regard to this project, the responsibility has fallen to the residents themselves to be informed and to present a united front for what their community needs. I stand here today, I join the community in asking the government to reopen submissions to allow proper consultation and a just and fair outcome. And again, reiterate, the planning system is failing our local communities, and it's time for the Minister to take action and put the local back into the system.
I thank the member and I call the member.